You and I are standing this very second at the meeting place of two eternities, the vast past that has endured forever and the future that is plunging on to the last syllable of recorded time. We can't possibly live in either of those eternities, no, not even for one split second. But by trying to do so, we can wreck both our bodies and our minds. So let's be content to live the only time we can possibly live, from now until bedtime. Anyone can carry his burden, however hard, until nightfall, wrote Robert Louis Stevenson. Anyone can do his work, however hard, for one day. Anyone can live sweetly, patiently, lovingly, purely, till the sun goes down. And this is all that life really means. Yes, that is all that life requires of us. But Mrs. E.K. Shields of Saginaw, Michigan, was driven to despair, even to the brink of suicide, before she learned to live just till bedtime. In 1937, I lost my husband, Mrs. Shields said as she told me her story. I was very depressed and almost penniless. I wrote my former employer, Mr. Leon Roach of the Roach Fowler Company of Kansas City, and got my old job back. I had formerly made my living selling world books to rural and town school boards. I had sold my car 2 years previously when my husband became ill, but I managed to scrape together enough money to put a down payment on a used car and started out to sell books again. I'd thought that getting back on the road would help relieve my depression, but driving alone and eating alone was almost more than I could take. Some of the territory was not very productive, and I found it hard to make those car payments, small as they were. In the spring of 1938, I was working out of Versailles, Missouri. The schools were poor, the roads bad, and I was so lonely and discouraged that at one time I even considered suicide. It seemed that success was impossible. I had nothing to live for. I dreaded getting up each morning and facing life. I was afraid of everything. Afraid I could not meet the car payments, afraid I could not pay my room rent, afraid I would not have enough to eat. I was afraid my health was failing, and I had no money for a doctor. All that kept me from suicide were the thoughts that my sister would be deeply grieved and that I didn't have enough money to pay my funeral expenses. Then one day, I read an article that lifted me out of my despondence and gave me the courage to go on living. I shall never cease to be grateful for one inspiring sentence in that article. It said, "Every day is a new life to a wise man." I typed that sentence out and pasted it on the windshield of my car, where I saw it every minute I was driving. I found it wasn't so hard to live only one day at a time. I learned to forget the yesterdays and not to think of the tomorrows. Each morning I said to myself, "Today is a new life." I have succeeded in overcoming my fear of loneliness, my fear of want. I am happy and fairly successful now and have a lot of enthusiasm and love for life. I know now that I shall never again be afraid, regardless of what life hands me. I know now that I won't have to fear the future. I know now that I can live one day at a time and that every day is a new life to a wise man. Even the great French philosopher Montaigne made that mistake. "My life," he said, "has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." So has mine. So has yours. "Think," said Dante, "that this day will never dawn again." Life is slipping away with incredible speed. We're racing through space at a rate of 19 miles every second. Today is our most precious possession. It is our only sure possession. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation to the dawn. So the first thing you should know about worry is this. If you want to keep it out of your life, do what Sir William Osler did. 1. Shut the iron doors on the past and the future. Live in day-tight compartments. Why not ask yourself these questions and write down the answers? 1. Do I tend to put off living in the present in order to worry about the future or to yearn for some magical rose garden over the horizon? 2. Do I sometimes embitter the present by regretting things that happened in the past that are over and done with? 3. Do I get up in the morning determined to seize the day, to get the utmost out of these 24 hours? 4. Can I get more out of life by living in day-tight compartments? 5. When shall I start to do this? Next week? Tomorrow? Today? Those who keep the peace of their inner selves in the midst of the tumult of the modern city are immune from nervous diseases. Can you keep the peace of your inner self in the midst of the tumult of a modern city? If you're a normal person, the answer is yes. Emphatically yes. Most of us are stronger than we realize. We have inner resources that we have probably never tapped. As Thoreau said in his immortal book, Walden, I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Next time trouble with a capital T backs you up in a corner, try the magic formula of Willis H. Carrier. A. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can possibly happen if I can't solve my problem? B. Prepare yourself mentally to accept the worst if necessary. C. Then calmly try to improve upon the worst, which you have already mentally agreed to accept.
Today I want to talk to you about the importance of reducing your stress and how to do so quickly and effectively. Now, stress is a normal and natural part of human life. In fact, they say that a positive mental attitude is simply a positive reaction or response to stress. You can't avoid stress. There's stress in driving through traffic. There's stress in getting going when you're behind schedule. There's stress when you're working on a big project or even a small project. But what you can do is learn how to manage it so you can move forward and lead a productive, happy life. So how do you manage stress? Well, there are a few ways that I manage the stress in my life, and I know these ways will work for you as well because I've taught them to more than 1 million people. First, plan your day in advance. Plan every aspect of your day and plan your activities in advance as well, especially if you're going through a difficult time in your life. Having a plan for your day will make you feel more in control. You won't have to think about or make a decision about what to do next. Becoming an expert in time management will reduce your stress levels enormously. Breaking down every task and activity in your day or week will make the big picture a lot less intimidating. Second, when you're experiencing a lot of stress, only work on the tasks that are the most important to improving your life. You can use tools that we've discussed in the past, like the 80-20 rule, to make setting and choosing your goals easier. Setting clear priorities for your work each day before you begin will relieve much of your stress immediately. Then discipline yourself to start on your most important task and to work on it until it's complete. Third, get more rest. It's amazing how many people suffer greater stress from the same event because they are just too tired. Fatigue causes you to experience stress at a much higher level for much longer periods of time. A body well taken care of will serve you much better in the long run and will reduce your stress naturally. If you're planning your day properly, then planning for more sleep shouldn't be a problem. Fourth, talk out your situation with someone else. Find someone who you like and trust and respect and talk to them about the situation you're experiencing. Ask them for their advice. Sometimes just talking about the issue out loud will help reduce the anxiety and stress you're feeling. Fifth, look for the lesson in any difficulty or problem that you're dealing with. One of the things that I do to eliminate the stress from my whole life is ask myself, what can I learn from this experience? What is this experience trying to teach me? I ask myself if I should be doing more of something or less of something in the future to avoid this sort of stress. If you look into any situation and look for the lesson in your most difficult experiences, you'll always find a lesson.
We talk a lot about stress these days. Everyone seems to be stressed out by something. Stress seems to be a buzzword, and we use it to the point where I think it's a cop-out. I'm so stressed, or this is so stressful, all this stress. I think that stress is a fearful reaction to life's constant changes. It is an excuse we often use for not taking responsibility for our own feelings. If we can put the blame out there on someone or something, then we can just play the innocent victim. But being the victim doesn't make us feel good, and it doesn't change the situation. Often we are stressing ourselves because we have our priorities mixed up. So many of us feel that money is the most important thing in our lives, but this is not true. There is something far more important and precious to us, without which we could not live. What is that? It's our breath. Our breath is the most precious substance in our lives, and yet we totally take for granted when we exhale that our next breath will be there. If we did not take another breath, we would not last 3 minutes. Now, if the power that created us has given us enough breath to last as long as we shall live, can we not trust life that everything else we need will also be supplied? When we trust life to take care of us and all our little problems, then stress just melts away. You do not have time to waste on negative thinking or emotions, because that only creates more of what you say you don't want. The next time you realize how stressed you are, ask yourself, what is scaring you? Stress is just fear. It's that simple. You do not need to be afraid of life or afraid of your own emotions. Find out what you are doing to yourself that is creating this fear within you. Your inner goal is joy and harmony and peace. Harmony is being at peace with yourself. It is not possible to have stress and inner harmony at the same time. When you are at peace, you do one thing at a time, and you don't let things get to you. When you feel stressed, do something to release the fear. Breathe deeply or go for a brisk walk. Remind yourself that I am the only power in my world, and I create a peaceful, loving, joyful, fulfilling life. You want to move through life feeling safe. Don't give a little word like stress a lot of power. Don't use it as an excuse to create tension in your body. Nothing, no person, place, or thing has any power over you. You are the only thinker in your mind, and it is your thoughts that create your life. So train yourself to think thoughts that make you feel good. That way, you will always be creating your life out of joy and in joy. Joy always brings more to be joyous about.